Oh dear. Another week, another heavy defeat, 3 in a row, and a jolly unhelpful result involving Leicester this afternoon. But don't worry, the next hour is going to be bloody great. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Craig, in theory, the hardest game you'll play any season is away at the team that wins the division you're in. Do you think, witness the league champions yesterday?
Yeah, I think we all went. Those that went to Man City first away game of the season probably thought they were witnessing the league champions in the first away game of the season. But as things have transpired since, yeah, Liverpool just they strolled through the game, really. They didn't look in any trouble. They're currently, top of the Champions League table as well, top of the Premier League table. So, yeah, it's not a good time to be playing the form team of Europe. As I say, yeah, they strolled through the game. They made, 5 changes from midweek to yesterday? And, yeah, they weren't overly exerted during the game yesterday either, sadly.
Can we call them the form team of the world just to mitigate the defeat a bit more rather than Europe?
Yeah, I don't keenly follow the Chilean Premier Liga or the A-League down in Australia, but yeah, why not? Let's call them.
So what you're saying is I'm right. Ian Aitchison, let's keep the faith and trust the process. £10 on the super chat. Thank you, Ian. And what a beautiful dog in your profile pitch there. What a little cutie pie there. From one cutie pie to another. Welcome, David Diamond. A very good link. Good
evening.
That's what this podcast has descended to, me blowing smoke up David Diamond's backside.
That'll be a first time for everything.
We have ticked off Liverpool and Man City for both games. Have I found another positive now I've framed Liverpool as the world's best football team? Craig said that, not me.
Yeah, I think that's perhaps the only positive you can take out of these two games, that we have now played them both twice. And I don't see any more positives. I mean, yesterday, I think Craig's right. I think we've witnessed the champions yesterday. You just covered just on such a roll and such momentum and confidence and belief and everything else. And a team in the relegation zone visiting there yesterday on the back of a 6-0 defeat. We were like cannon fodder, weren't we? We were expected we would be, and ultimately, unfortunately, we were.
A lot of comments about Spurs in the chat. I'm contractually obliged with the lovely people from Innovation Labs. I can't talk about that for half an hour, but don't worry. We are going to talk about Spurs and their jolly unhelpful home defeat against Leicester. Imagine Spurs losing 2-1 at home to anyone. How silly is that? Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. We're going to find some positives. I mean, one of which is we're playing the bottom side in the league next week, and it is now 19th versus 20th. Welcome to everybody in the chat. We really, really appreciate you being here. We're looking for our normal reframing business on a pretty hefty defeat. But look, as the professor said in his press conference after the game, most of the fans understand the gravity of this. So it was up to Anfield for Craig and plenty of Ipswich fans. Let us know in the chat if you were up there yesterday and what your comments were. Craig, your Ipswich Town 11 was Christian Walton in goal. Axel Tuanzebe starting at right back. Leif Davis, an unwell Leif Davis apparently, starting at left back. Jacob Greaves, Dara O'Shea, Sam Morsey, Calvin Effin Phillips, Wes Burns, Jaden Philogene on the other wing, Murray Hutchison, Liam Delap. Craig, your thoughts on that 11?
It's nice to see Tuanzebe come in straight into the start. Obviously, Godfrey was on the bench, so he sort of superseded him. As you say, nice also to see Wes Burns, a slightly more attacking selection than Ben Johnson would have been. You wouldn't have been surprised to have seen Ben Johnson playing in front of the right back or the right side centre half as it is, just to give us a bit of protection down there possibly. More interesting, probably, about the substitutes, in that Jack Clark wasn't in the squad at all, despite being available and fit, apparently. So he's dropped out of the equation at the moment, probably due to Mr. Enciso arriving. And Jens Kiuste, unfortunately, is being managed. Apparently, his knee issues being managed. So that's not ideal. We're sort of very much bare bones when it comes to the centre midfield. Luongo and Taylor were both on the bench to give us a bit of cover in the centre midfield. So yeah, it's unlike Liverpool, who were able to rest and bring in, and everyone looks refreshed and in form. We're sort of needs must, other than the attacking left side, which we seem to be overloaded with somewhat at the moment.
Dave?
Yeah, I mean, it's another 5 changes, isn't it? All right, some out of necessity. Obviously, Tuesday, as we now understand, struggling with a sort of knee issue, which Craig quite rightly said, trying to manage. But again, just more changes. Clark, yes, no, you're not surprised not to see him start. He didn't have the best. He was a bit unfortunate last week. Didn't have the best of games. Obviously, certainly gave 1 goal away, didn't he? Perhaps that shot his confidence a
Don't
little.
mention that guy. We banned him, the guy that Clark passed it to. Remember, that's a
Oh
new
no,
rule.
yeah, no, yeah. Bloody Jeremy. And Philogene, yeah, no surprise seeing Philogene start. And yeah, I like as Craig said, I like that. Burns in for perhaps probably Johnson, a more attacking option, although it didn't quite transpire that way. But yeah.
Craig has already categorised Liverpool as the world's best football team, Dave, and here is their starting 11 from yesterday, with Alisson in goal, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk, Konate, McAllister, Gravenberch, whatever. Dave, Liverpool are good.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard that team, it is probably looking at it. Who else isn't there? Jota, I think, has got an injury, so he wouldn't have even been on the bench. That is their first. Oh, Curtis Jones, I suppose, has been starting, hasn't he? But my God, that's their first choice. That's their first choice side. So as soon as you saw that, you thought, okay, they're taking us seriously. They're taking the game and certainly us seriously. Oh yeah, it was just so much, and on the day, just far too much for us.
Craig, you looking forward to seeing any of this lot?
Oh, 100%. And it's, as Dave says, as you're walking to the ground and checking the lineups, and you think, they might, but then they rested them during the week. So why would they have rested them during the week if they weren't going to bring them all back on Saturday? But yeah, it's nice to see people like Salah playing and Alexander-Arnold, and they're, as I said, they're all in form. Yeah, of course,
is it really?
And they're all in, but they're all in form, aren't they? None of them are out of form either. So they're all purring at the moment as
poor old,
just a very
as Craig and myself said this morning when we recorded the rewind chime, poor old Leaf yesterday, if he's feeling sick before the game, my God, his head must have been spinning in the first half, because we never quite got to grips with Salah. Well, not we're alone in that, but we never quite got to grips with poor old Leaf. But as we understand, he was under the weather, so that perhaps had something to do with that. But yeah, they were just far too good.
I would recommend, Craig. I went to see Watford play Liverpool a couple of years ago, and Salah was a complete freak show. That far more fun. I recommend that as
I remember that
as the more enjoyable experience. Craig, when do we go behind? Minute 11. So another early goal from Soboslai.
Yeah, and the game had already settled nicely into its pattern of us sitting 30, 40 yards encamped outside of our goal and just trying to stave off wave after wave of attack, which, we did in the main, I suppose. There were no massively clear-cut chances, but, yeah, we were just there waiting for something to happen, really, and unfortunately, Konate, isn't it, slides it through to Szoboszlai. So Szoboszlai just wandered off of Calvin Phillips and found himself up front pretty much all by himself. And it's a nice, simple, straightforward pass to him in acres of space. We were looking at the angle we were at. We were looking directly at the play as it evolved. And Greaves is on Salah, and Salah moves out, as he tends to do, to the left, and just left this whacking great hole, which Szoboszlai just wandered into and Dara O'Shea gets across, but then gets turned pretty easily. And as Premier League players tend to do when they're 18 yards out, they tend to find the corners of the net, left, right, top, bottom. And this one ended up in Christian Walton's bottom left corner, unfortunately.
Dave, are we able to be... I know you can give me the answer, they're really good, and I can't really argue back against it, but can we be a bit more durable in these away games?
I think so. It's Craig's right. It's far too easy for Slappers Lie. He's run off Phillips. Well, I think it's Phillips. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And he's just, as he said, he stands O'Shea up, chops back inside him. Nice bit of skill. And as Craig said, they tend to hit the corner. Though Walton does get a hand to it, but it is right in the corner, isn't it? And it's hit with reasonable power. I don't think you can put that one down to him. He was at full stretch. Despite Warnock, I think, was a co-commentator saying, "Oh, Walton didn't get anywhere near it." Well, he did, but yeah, no, it was too well struck. But it was all a bit easy, to be fair. Just a straight ball, sort of diagonal ball from Canate. One ball, one turn shot, goal.
Dave, we were kind of discussing one goal turning into two, turning into three last week. To be fair, there's a bit of a gap before Salah scores, and unfortunately, that gap's punctuated by an injury to Wes Burns.
And it looks nasty, doesn't it? I think is it on Gakpo or Gravenberg's one of them? Is Gakpo, isn't it? And does he need to make the challenge? Because he sort of he's in a good position. Obviously, Gakpo's in that position wide left as he took up most of the first half. And Burns is in quite a good position, and he's actually got. I think he has. He's got Gakpo facing away from goal, and look, he can't really blame him. I suppose he tries to lunge in and nick the ball off him. Bit of aggression. Oh, it's a nasty one, and just at the time, sort of Gakpo gets across, and you could see at pace his knee it looks nasty. His knee just takes the impact, and you can see it just go in. And the way he went down straight away, his arm was up. So yeah, I mean, I know there's a scan this week, but I think
Dave, isn't this the exact same time last season we lost Wes
Exactly.
Burns,
Sheffield Wednesday is what was that? Was it hams? No, what was it? Groin? I can't remember what it was. I can't remember anyway. I don't think it was knee. Was it last? I can't remember. And it looks a bad one. But look, he's got a scan, so all you could be hoping for it's just a minor tear, and those things can be cleared up. Keyhole surgery, and look, you might see him back in a month, or 6 weeks, but unlikely. That looking bad to me.
Craig, in terms of squad depth, what does a sustained period without Wes Burns look like?
Oh, well, currently it looks like Ben Johnson, doesn't it? Because he's been the replacement so far in terms of Burns being Ogbene's replacement. And poor old Wes Burns, he actually, the last few weeks, he's been acclimatising, hasn't he, to the Premier League? He's been getting stronger. Yeah, he's been playing well. He's worked so hard to get the chance to play in the Premier League like these guys probably never thought they would. And he's got half a season, and it looks, as things currently stand, that may well be it. In terms of what we do we, in the home games, in the inverted commas, easier, simpler games, did we play Amari Hutchinson out there and rejig in the middle? Now we've got Enciso and Philogene, plus the other cast of characters that can play those positions, very possibly. Do we now have to go out and splurge another £8-10 million on someone that we probably hadn't budgeted for in January? If you want the injury to happen, you'd rather it happened on the 25th of January rather than the 10th of February, for example. But it just limited us yesterday. We didn't have much attacking threat yesterday, but what little attacking threat we had in the first half came from Wes Burns before he got injured. Our two ball carriers weren't really carrying the ball. Philogene and Hutchinson were getting just nudged off of it very, very easily. The one time we got into the Liverpool half was from a Hutchinson carry of the ball, and Wes Burns beating Robertson to the bylining and trying to get a cross in. As soon as Wes Burns went off and Ben Johnson comes on, then you know that side of the pitch is going to be pretty much solidified, but your attacking threat is going to be virtually nil. So yes, I'd imagine that's one of the things they'll be working on now. I say whether they can slide Hutchinson across, which a lot of people have seen him play there and like him playing there, but he's not going to be as direct straight down the wing. He's going to be cutting inside and doing bits and pieces in the middle, and we're not going to have any width on the right hand side as things currently stand.
problematic. Problematic is Mo Salah as well, Craig. And you've already christened Liverpool the world's best team. Is this the footballer of the year as well, scoring this next goal?
Yeah, why not? We'll give it to him as well. Sure.
Ballon d'Or?
Well, yes. As Dave said previously about Leif Davis, if he's playing against Leif Davis each week, then he may well pick it up. Poor old boy. It actually starts off on completely the other side. Ben Johnson's stood up Gakpo. Robertson's on the overlap. Ben Johnson decides to follow the guy who's making the overlapping run rather than the guy who's actually got the ball. So Gakpo's now free to cross the ball, which he does. Greaves is challenging Diaz, centre half on centre forward, as you would expect. But for some reason, Leif Davis thinks that he can add to this equation and get involved in that challenge. And as a result, leaves the prospective Ballon d'Or and Player of the Year, World Player of the Year at the back post all by himself. And even then, should he be scoring from 1 yard off the touchline?
He always scores from there.
Yeah, he does. But well, if he always scores from there, the goalkeeper just stand up and tip it over the bar, shouldn't he?
Easier said than done, mate.
Yeah, or take it square in the chops, or whatever you need to do. But yeah, unfortunately, Leif Davis gets stuck under the ball. It drops over his head to Salah, and as you say, we've seen it before. He just controls it and then half volleys it into the roof of the net from an acute angle and disappears off to do his archery celebration.
Whatever. Salah, dearie me. 3-0, Dave, just before half-time. Gakpo?
Yeah, again, it's quite. I think it's this grab and back. I think has got in loads of space, just plays the ball. So this is quite a nice ball, sort of splits the defence. Again, Szoboszlai's made that run into the box on an angle. He spins, hits it first time. I'm not sure. It's so close, and I don't think Walton could do a lot more than other than try and rely on his defenders to get there first. But neither. I think it's Twanzebe or O'Shea can get there, and yeah, Gakpo's just followed the ball in and just bundles it in.
Dave, what happens to the defensive line here? Why is Twanzebe behind everyone? I know it's been a tough half.
2 yards behind everyone.
Ball watching, clearly you'd think usually when that happens, there's a bit of ball watching and just letting the man run off, which they did. It's a quite good play from Slobbers. I don't think Walton's at fault there. He gets a good hand to it. But yeah, he'd be relying on one of his defenders to get across there. But unfortunately, they don't. And Gakpo just bundles it in for 3. And then you think, thinking, hang on, this has got the 3 before half time. This has got the vibes of last week.
Was it 3 at half time last week, or was it 4? 3, was it?
3.
I can't remember. We've conceded a lot of goals lately, and it's
3.
hard to keep count, Craig.
Definitely 3 at half time, yeah.
Yeah, and you can do that without mentioning Jeremiah. Jeremy. Craig, just gnarly half time. And Connor Townsend comes in for the second half, and the professor explained Leif Davis not feeling great. I suppose bit of a positive that I know the game state means that Liverpool probably just chill out a bit, having already won the 3 points, but kind of reassuring that we can put somebody in and lock up that side and it not be terrible. Am I clutching at straws there, Craig?
No, I don't think so. He played perfectly okay, and as you say, in the circumstances, really. He's come in for his first proper chunk of Premier League football for us, away at Liverpool and away against Mo Salah, and he handled him as well, better than Davis did, put it that way. I do wonder whether the illness thing is a bit of a smokescreen, because, as Dave said, Leif had a bit of a torrid first half, albeit he's being left one-on-one to mark Mo Salah, who's dancing his way into the box with the ball at his feet a lot of the time. He wasn't getting an awful lot of assistance from Jayden in front of him. So, it may be a case that we can utilise Connor Townsend. Do we need to slog Leif Davis as much as we do in games that we might be on the back foot in? But again, if you're losing Wes Burns and Ogbene on the right-hand side, you don't want to be losing your attacking threat on the left as well, because we will be up a stream without a paddle.
Thank you, Marty, in the chat. Cheers for the amazing content, lads. Bloody Spurs, £2 on the super chat. Thank you very much, Marty. There. Dave, the viewers are going to get really annoyed if you praise this cross too much. So do you want me to throw to Craig for the next goal?
Go for it. I think we should mention his first contribution, though.
Which is?
The yellow card.
Oh, you're talking about Enciso. I was talking about
we haven't got to 3-0
Oh, you're
yet,
talking
mate.
about... Oh, Christ, I thought you'd got beyond that. Oh, yeah, go on, Craig. Yeah, I'll only eulogise too much about it. Go on, Craig, yeah.
You say about that cross, there's a cross in the first half, right towards the end of the first half,
ridiculous.
where he volleys it and he fades it with the outside of his right foot, and it just evades whoever's running in at the far post.
Diaz, isn't it? It's unbelievable. Yeah.
That's a ridiculous cross.
Could he do it at Fleetwood or Accrington, though?
I
Someone will clip that out and think I'm serious, won't they?
I don't think we're ever going to find that out, to be perfectly honest. Unless Real Madrid are playing there in a friendly next summer.
There you go. But nice cross for this one, to be fair, isn't it? That's as much as I'll say.
He's got a lot of time now.
But he's really deep, Dave.
He's about 2 yards from the corner of the box, isn't he? And he's one of the best passers in the Premier League.
Doesn't really put himself out that much, does he? To try. Is it Village? I think it is.
Yeah.
It's just quality, isn't it? He played one at Portman Road, which I thought was one of the best I've ever seen. When Jota, before they went 1-up at Portman Road, second half, he drilled one even harder than he did yesterday, and I was right behind it. I think I've said everything now, but yeah, it was very similar yesterday.
Okay, they're good. We get it. They're the best team in the world, and Mo Salah's going to be Footballer of the Year. Right. We can talk about all of these bits and bobs here. Here comes Julio Enciso, George Hurst, and Nathan Broadhead. And let's go to Dave. Would you compare and contrast João Pedro on Walton against Enciso on Endo, was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, me and Craig said the same this morning. You know, there was a lot, certainly. I think yesterday perhaps he perhaps got away with, and maybe the ref took a little bit of pity on him, and he'd only been on the pitch like literally 2 minutes, hadn't he? Virtually that. Could have been his first involvement, if that. So maybe he got away with it. And he kind of, when I first saw it, I thought, Christ, he's off a studs in the chest. But he does, as his momentum goes, he does kind of pull his studs back, and I think he probably just knees him in the chest. So I think he can't. And you think, oh, can this day get any worse? Can this day? But fortunately, I think we did get away with one, because that could have easily gone the other way. But maybe the ref took pity. It was 4-0 in his first sort of involvement, so I think we got away with that. But other than that, I think the little involvement he did had, he looked sharp, neat and tidy, didn't he? And he can take a good corner, Ben. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. What was your take on Enciso, Craig?
Yeah, very much the same. He just looked to get involved with everything, you know. So he ran over to take the corner. He wanted to take the corner himself. I don't know if they've had time to practice anything. He's only been in training with us for a couple of days, but yeah, he volunteered to take it. And as Dave said,
I guess Leif Davis would have taken it if he'd been on, would he?
Maybe not from that side. It was from the right foot in swinger, if you see what I mean. May have been Phillips, possibly. Johnson's been taking them, hasn't he? As well. So yes, whipped it in, and Greaves lost his man Elliott possibly to power it in from a couple of yards out, which was nice for the fans. Yeah, the fans being in front of the fans as well. It's a longer way to go to be gubbed 4-0, isn't it? 4-1 gives us a little bit of shine, something to talk about on the way home. Just a quick one in terms of the Enciso booking. Delap got booked after 75, 76 minutes. I think he's now getting picked up by referees. They're not giving him any leniency at all now. He's getting given fouls against him for everything. Yeah. He's getting beaten from pillar to post by centre-halves and getting very little back the other way. And I just think his card has been marked by somebody, and
We said this last week. I agree. Yeah.
Is he going to replace James Scowcroft as the most unfairly penalised Ipswich striker, where everything he does is a foul, basically?
Yeah.
Peter Crouch in the World Cup.
There you go. So, Dave, I mean, looking at this, Liverpool scored on 66, and there was 5 minutes stoppage time. So basically, in pretty much, let's call it an entire half, 66, that's nearly a half. We won 1-0, basically. against the best team in the world with the football of the year. It's all right, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, no, that's very good. Very good. They did kind of make a few changes. So like 68, they made 3. Sloboslai, Gakpo, and Gravenberg went off on 68. So there is mitigating circumstances here. But no, again at 4-0 on 66 minutes, it could have been another 6-7 if they'd have really. But I think they did take their foot off the gas a little bit. And again, the subs that came on again in circumstantial 4-0 down, but all showed up pretty well. There was one really good move where Hurst perhaps should have done better with their header. It's a brilliant cross from Townsend, a really good move before we scored. And Hurst gets a good header on it, but I think he should be hitting the corner and giving them Allison no chance. But Allison, it sort of bounces up and Allison makes a one-handed save. It looks sort of harder than I think it was really. So that was sort of quite that was quite good. And then obviously because we thought, oh shit, well, denied us a goal, but obviously we get the goal. So yes, from that point of view, there's a positive from that. But really, Ben, in those first 80 minutes, we never laid a glove on them at all. Not at all.
No, we didn't. There was a stat. I think I saw a stat earlier on social media. Van Dijk made X amount of passes. It's the most in the Premier League this season. Well, of course he did, because he didn't have anybody within 40 yards of him for the entire match. We were encamped, including Liam Delap, encamped 35 yards from our goal.
They were saying that on the commentary. Apparently, Merson was saying, obviously, I did watching the feed, but Merson said on Sky Sports on Soccer Saturday it was the most one-sided game he's seen all season, I think. Yeah.
Craig, how do we frame this? Because I mean, there's a couple of routes we can go down, and I dare say it's a David Diamond bit of both, possibly. But okay, losing 4-1's never great. But do I need to say that we were in League One a couple of seasons ago, and Liverpool are probably going to win the league, and it's ticked off? And if you agree with me that the pyramid's a little bit broken and it's nigh on impossible to go up against these teams in season one, how are you going to frame this?
Yeah, exactly that. You've just got to try, and to be fair to the fans, they did. The crowd that were there, the supporters that were there, were absolutely fine with it. There's a couple of little grumbles about getting a bit closer to Salah, or trying to push up a little bit towards the halfway line rather than defend so deep. But what can you do?
Mark Salah, great advice.
Yeah, exactly. Get closer to him. Oh, all right. We'll move up to the halfway line. All right, we'll give him 50 yards to run into behind us, sort of thing. But
see that Messi tackle him.
It's difficult, isn't it? What? It's difficult to see what our tactic or intents were, but it's difficult to know what they can be in those circumstances. The gulf between the teams is so vast. What do you do? It looked yesterday like an FA Cup game between Liverpool and a lower league team, when the lower league team just sits in, hopes for the best, tries to get a set piece at some point to score from, which we did, but unfortunately they'd scored 4 in between times. And hope, as we've said time and time again on the pod, hope the opposition has an off day, that Salah's a 4 out of 10 rather than a 7, 8 out of 10. Hope that Szoboszlai isn't going to find the bottom corner with his shot, etc., etc. But these are such good plays; it's invariably not going to happen. So you just have to ride it out, do what you can. And the tactics were very similar to what Man City were, in that you just sit in, and hope that you don't concede and you defend your box better than what we did. And that's one thing that Kieran McKenna said yesterday, didn't he, post-match, is that we didn't defend our box particularly well. Well, if you're going to sit 35 yards out of your goal and not defend your box very well, you're not going to win the match, unfortunately.
And I mean, the thing to admire about them is just their hunger for it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, every time they lost the ball, they hunted for the ball back. And again, it comes down to that every single week, we were just getting knocked off the ball. It's easy for them. Physicality, obviously, poor old Delap was up against 2 centre halves, and I agree with Craig. Really didn't get any change when he had an opportunity. But all over the park, every second ball they won, and when we did win it, they were just brushing us off the ball.
Yes, overpowered. Centre midfield was very obvious. We were overpowered, outnumbered. They just sort of solidified the whole of that. They condensed
really
it.
Good.
We had
really
no
good.
space in there whatsoever. Phillips and Morsey were trying to play little ball, like 1-yard passes between each other,
just
with like 2 or 3 blokes on them. They're just.
Yeah.
It was impressive. As Dave said, from Liverpool's perspective, to be that hungry and at it against a team of our stature, with no disrespect to ourselves, it's impressive that the work rate that they put in to just win the ball back time and time again, just to suffocate us.
Yeah.
But Dave, we're on the. I'll use a golf reference for you here. Now we're on the back nine in round what is it? Round 23 this week, and they're the two best squads, aren't they? Liverpool and Man City. And you've now ticked off both games, and yeah, okay, it's been take the Brighton game out of it, which is frustrating as well. It's been a horrible week conceding 10 goals, but if the games were spaced 2 months apart, it might have still been the same results. And it's done now, isn't it?
Yeah, in some respects, Ben, the Brighton game frustrated me more than these two.
Exactly. Yeah,
a lot more than these two. These two expected to get nothing. All right, I think the City result, given the form that City had been in, was a bit of a tough pill to take last Sunday. And like I said, at 4-0 down on 66, you do fear the worst. But look, yeah, we just got to move on. We've got obviously a full week, no midweek game this week, and a huge game coming up next weekend.
Huge. There you go.
Huge.
We've done it. 6-0 followed by a 4-1. We got through both of them. Well done, Craig. You're in. Dave's done 2 of these. Let's hope it's better against Southampton.
I did see Joe before the match yesterday, and his lovely family, and I think he's probably rocking backwards and forwards, clutching his knees at the moment in a darkened room somewhere. Poor boy.
Yeah.
There you go. You're very welcome standing for him then, Craig. And let's all take a welcome break here and a word from our friends and yours at Atwell's.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thank you to the wonderful people at Atwell's, and also One Stop badges. You can claim your discount from One Stop. All the details are in the description here on YouTube, and you can find that even if you watch the YouTube show after the fact. If you are watching on YouTube, please do hit the thumbs up button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. ITFC women travelled all the way to Wales to face Gwalia, held a 2-0 half-time lead, only for the game to be abandoned due to a waterlogged pitch. Rich sounds angry when he's writing this. This is the second attempt to play the fixture, Craig. The originally scheduled one was abandoned just before kickoff a few months ago for exactly the same reason. So I don't really know what else.
Aggressiveness in that message wasn't
Was
it?
was a lot of exclamation marks and underlining.
No, but I think he's got a fair point, hasn't he? I don't really know what more the women's team can do there. But hey, Mother Nature will Mother Nature. And Mother Nature will make sure that the Blue Monday podcast, Dave, is busy again this week. We had about 50 shows last week. It's just the way it fell with new signings and midweek rounds and all of that good stuff. Thank you for all your support. Let us know in the comments if anybody watched every minute of one of those, especially considering we lost all the bloody games as well. So well done to you lot, you wonderful subscribers and supporters. Tuesday, 5 p.m, Rewind, which these two wonderful men across from me today, I think recorded this morning, starring Southampton and Days Gone By. Thursday will be pre-match as well with Rich and Seb. Myself and Mikey, I think might be back on Friday. I think we enjoyed a Friday segment for the Premier League predictions. And me and Mikey are going to jump on the chance to predict an Ipswich win this week because we're against bottom of the league. But we'll get to that in a minute. We'll be back. Joe Fairs will no doubt be back. But you can get your fix of Craig, obviously, on the Rewind show. He'll be back with the Flagship with me and Dave next Sunday. And we can talk about Spurs now, can't we? Because it's time for our Premier League roundup in association with Innovation Labs. By the way, you can see when the screen goes off, the three of us all started dancing there to the little bed music for Innovation Lab. It's the one bit of enjoyment in this pod. Right, I know which game you're going to want to talk about, so I won't even ask. But bloody hell, Bournemouth are good, aren't they? Bournemouth 5, Forest 0. makes me
Incredible.
feel a little bit better about conceding. No, it doesn't. Brighton 0, Everton 1. I told you that was bloody trouble. Bloody Moyes. Didn't I? Didn't I tell you all? Liverpool 4, Ipswich 1,
Shit.
whatever. Southampton 1, Newcastle 3. That was concerning for a few minutes. Wolves 0, Arsenal 1 was very concerning when Arsenal went down to 10 minutes. Could have been a really terrible round.
It could have been awful.
The worst results possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, ho-hum. Man City 3, Chelsea 1, yeah, whatever. Palace 1, Brentford 2. I don't think we care about Palace since they beat us. And here's the one. Oh, dear. Joe Fairs said last week, just got to get one more point than Wolves. Well, Joe, I love you, but that's not true anymore because you've got to get 2 more points than Leicester now because they have moved above us in the table with a 2-1 win at Spurs. Aston Villa 1, West Ham 1. Is it still 0-0? No, Fulham 0, Manchester United 1 in the Sunday night TNT.
Wrong way round, isn't it? It's wrong way round.
Football. Sorry. Did I say that? Fulham 0, Manchester United 1. Have I got it right now?
Yeah, it's just wrong on the caption, isn't it?
Oh, we'll no-sell that. No one will notice, Dave. Don't worry. Really frustrating Leicester winning, isn't it, Craig?
Yeah, and frustrating that Everton winning as well, isn't it? At some point in the very near future, we've got to start picking up some 3-point victories, haven't we? The Spurs,
4-point victories. Can you do any of them? 5?
I don't know. Do they give those away for any particular reason? I can't think. Yeah, these, as you said about David Moyes, he's unfortunately going to turn it around. What's his 700th Premier League game, wasn't it?
That says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's going to get them out of this. So, as Joe said last week, Wolves by 1 point, and now it's Leicester by 1 point as well. But looks at although
by 2, Craig.
We've still only got beat Leicester by 1, though, haven't we? We go above them.
Oh no, but we're 2 points behind. Sorry, what Joe was saying, you've got to score 1 point more than Wolves. You've got to score 2 points. But yeah. I think we're both saying the same thing, mate.
Yeah. It may be a stay of execution for Van Nistelrooy, or it may be the start of a renaissance. It's unlikely, I would suggest. It's more an indication of where Spurs find themselves at the moment, rather than Leicester. You would have thought, and you would have thought that Spurs will be making a change. Daniel Levy would be making a change to the manager's seat to save Daniel Levy's seat up in the director's box. You would have thought. Just a quick one on that Arsenal game. We listened to everything on the radio on the way up and on the way back. And there were obviously Arsenal fans on 606 chatting to Sutton and Savage about this red card shouldn't have been. And they've been moaning and groaning, haven't they, for weeks about various decisions and red cards. What was that red card yesterday? It was nothing, was it? Barely a yellow, let alone a
Skelly one.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at it back, I thought the same. But when you look at it back, he just catches him, like he rakes him down his shin, doesn't he? With studs. Oh, it's soft, isn't it? It is.
Craig,
soft.
say game's gone. Say it.
Game's, yeah. Go on, you say it.
Game's gone. To be fair, whenever I do watch-alongs, Dave, we always have these big debates. You know, when someone does just a blatant professional foul when there's a counter-attack, a lot of people are like, why don't you just make that a red card? Because it's so
wherever
you know when they say a professional foul, it's just blatant. Okay, Craig, it may not be a red card. I agree with you, but do you know what I mean? It's very orange card, isn't it? You're clearly cheating and you know that the wording denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity, stopping a counter attack just because you do it 30 yards down the pitch and then someone will slide in and get the dog so and get a red card, and I'm like, is one really worse than the other? But anyway, that's my soapbox for today.
It wasn't quite an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer sprint 60 yards and take someone down at the knee.
Rob Lee.
2 yards outside the box.
It wasn't that, that's for sure.
Yeah, tremendous stuff. Dave, have you got anything to... I'm sure you're going to get asked about Ange Postecoglou in the questions segment. Have you got anything to add there? Maybe about Wolves? It was... I know it's kind of a bit lame to be sitting there hoping that Arsenal can beat Wolves with all their riches, but I was.
That didn't look good, and Havertz was profligate's a good word. He's missing loads of chances, but then to be fair, then towards the end, Wolves evened that up. Gomez got sent off, I think. So that evened things up, and I think Arsenal saw it out comfortably in the end. That was that Calafiori scored. Quite a good finish actually. I know we're not really talking about this level, but you're right. Bloody hell, Bournemouth. Although, from what I saw the highlights, some of that Forest defending was shite.
But they're
But
brilliant defensive team, Forest. I don't get it.
I mean, honestly, but Bournemouth, the movement and pace they've got in that team is absolutely frightening, and they are on it, aren't they? Incredible, incredible. 4 last week at Newcastle, 5 at home to Forest. They are flying.
And I
And
mean,
hopefully that will link into a Spurs manager chat, hopefully, won't it? Rather than
Well,
well, why
you
would you?
hope.
Yeah, I suppose you would, because Spurs is arguably a bigger club, isn't it? But I suppose, Craig, to I know Dave's saying it's not relevant, but in respects of teams coming up for the EFL and actually challenging, and we'd like to think we've got an excellent manager. Okay, Iraola's doing absolutely sensational at the moment. It does give hope for if you can stay up for a couple of seasons that you can move up the table, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also gives hope for managers that if you do stick with the right one for a period of time, they were struggling, weren't they? November time last year, November, December last year, and stuck with him. And all of a sudden, once he gets a chance to get his ideas into the team and his patterns and his triggers for his press, etc., and it's just clicked ever since, hasn't it? For a year or so, really. The tail end of last year and the first 6 months of this.
Also helped they got a good chunk of dough for Solanke, didn't they?
Yeah, but spent it really well.
I know, that's what I mean.
Spent really
it
well,
brilliantly. Yeah, absolutely.
Fair play, Bournemouth. Right, shall we go across to the questions segment? Get your questions. That's fine, Rich. Leave the table up, mate. That's fine. We'll do it. Get your questions in. Stick a Q before a question mark afterwards. There is your Premier League table after round 23.
Oh,
and
dear.
Dave, I know we've played Liverpool and Man City, but we didn't think Leicester were going to get a win from anywhere. But I suppose maybe more fool us, because no team's just going to lose every game, are they?
No, but you would have thought even Spurs. I mean, and 1-0 up at half time. I mean, I don't think I've watched some of that game. They weren't that convincing, but you think, oh, they'll get a second and this will be game over. But they just did them just soon after half time. 2 goals in 5 minutes, and they hit the bar with a free kick and stuff, and never really looked like it. So obviously good for Leicester. Lost 7 on the spin. As you said, probably given Van Nistelrooy already. Perhaps if it could be a stay of execution, maybe. Let's hope it doesn't give them a 2-3 game sort of winning drawing boost. But it just puts even more pressure on our game next Saturday, doesn't it?
Are you up for a Paul Lambert mention, Craig?
Oh no! Can I just say about goal difference? Can I just say about goal difference?
Go on,
look at our goal difference compared to Everton's goal difference. We're already 7 points away from them now, and we're now 17 goals away from them as well.
Craig, I don't want to rain on your parade, but I don't think we need to be looking at Everton.
We don't now, no. But
anymore,
I say the last couple of weeks haven't helped our cause, have they?
I was just going to say though, haven't we had it before where we've had managers in trouble? Let's just say, okay, I'll give you a Paul Hurst mention, and then they might go to Swansea and get a pretty fluky win with not very many shots on target, and that gives them another few games, and that could happen to Leicester. So you never know.
See that as Collins has put up. See the fixture next Saturday, Everton Leicester.
Well, there you go. Maybe I'll be wrong, and Craig can talk about Everton next week if Leicester can beat them. But generally, if anyone could in the bottom 5 could just stop winning until perhaps May, Dave, that would be helpful. Right, get your questions in, guys, and the boys are going to answer as many as possible. Dave, do Town need to sign a Burns replacement this week? We don't have a player like him available now. With Ogbene done for the season.
I mean, where'd you just get a player like that in a matter where it is just one more week, isn't it? This Monday week, isn't it? Well, Fleetwood, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I just can't see it. I think we're just going to have to make do in that position. And I think, as Craig said, you're probably going to get, as horses for courses in certain games, is going to be Johnson, but in certain games you're going to see Hutchison shunted out there again, which I think he's had some of his best games in that position this season. But as Craig said, he's just not direct. He won't go directly, play on that right side. He won't go directly like Burns does to the line. He'll always be looking to check inside, and perhaps, where are we? 2/3 of the season, perhaps, are we something like that? Through the season, perhaps opposition have got a bit wise to that, should we say?
It'd be interesting if the timing had been different. Sorry, Ben. Just if the timing had been different with the Enciso loan. Had Burns been injured before the Enciso loan happened, whether we'd have looked to
something different,
a loan out there rather than in through the middle or on the other side.
Yeah.
Craig, Andrew, did Townsend do enough to, I think he means earn a spot in the team there? Thought he did really well and was good going forward. It's hard when you got Leif Davis, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to supersede Leaf just purely on a like-for-like basis. But, it may well just give us food for thought in some of the trickier games, or if, Leaf's still struggling, there's no real qualms about putting him in. We don't know what he's going to be like on a week-on-week basis, do we? He's untried really in the Premier League. But you'd think probably more solid defensively potentially. But then, as the comments said there, he's put a decent ball in, as Dave said before, for George Hurst's header. So yeah, he looks like a decent backup. But I think that's all he will be for the foreseeable.
That's a good question, Dave. Bloomers, can we explore why we were difficult to beat in the first 10 games and now look more vulnerable than ever? I mean, do you believe in like early season momentum and that new car smell and kind of being a bit high on life there? Is that part
I think
of the reason?
so. I honestly think that's correct, and I know it took us to early November to get our first win against Spurs, but I think certain games perhaps took the wind out of our sails a bit. I think that Everton game at home set us back a bit. I think it set us back a lot actually, because I think we're all fairly confident but fairly hopeful of getting our first win that game, sort of thing, or at least getting a point out of that game. So despite certain great performances, Fulham, early season, Villa obviously early season, but I think that kind of that defeat against Everton, I think game like that sort of set us back a bit, I think. But I think you're quite right. You said we just had that momentum from last season.
Can we blame Doku for that defeat against Everton? I think I'll find a way. I'll figure out a way of us to be able to do that.
I think there must be a link somewhere.
Craig from Norman, given we seem to lack athleticism, easy for me to say. Would it be better to substitute both our midfielders after 6 minutes than always substituting the front three or four? I guess they're the front line of the press, though, the forwards, aren't they? And maybe you need a bit more stability in central midfield, Craig?
You do, if you're relying on those front four to do all your attacking, aren't you? We don't, the way that we're currently set up in the Premier League, I don't know if we actually require much. Christ almighty, of course we require athleticism, but much athleticism relatively in that centre of midfield. We're not like breaking from midfield and busting a gut to getting into the box. And, we're not starting with Phillips and Morsey in there. We're not starting off with a huge amount of athleticism that's dropping off a cliff during the game either, really. So, they're playing as athletically as they do in 90 minutes as they did at minute one, really. And there will be a drop-off in quality when you've got Taylor and Luongo on the bench. It's if we're looking to win games, it's those four up front that you need to change and add a bit of oomph to, don't you, to try and get you over the lines. Obviously, yesterday and last week is a different matters. But for example, next week against Southampton, you won't be changing your centre midfield. You wouldn't think on 65 minutes if we're drawing or even losing. You'll be changing that front forward to get you something out of the game rather than solidifying the midfield. Although looking at just quick about their Southampton game, I saw the Southampton goals they conceded yesterday. They conceded one from Newcastle guy Tonali strolling through the centre of the goal, strength of the pitch, and stroking it in nicely. Unfortunately, our centre midfielders don't tend to stroll through the centre of the pitch, do they? It's they're too busy sat in the middle.
And if you listen to this week's episode of Rewind, you can probably hear about a Southampton midfielder strolling through the centre of the pitch at Portman Road if you really, really want to. Dave, as Craig was speaking there, I was kind of thinking, talking about the front four as the players that want to win you games. But what percentage in the Premier League of a team down at the bottom are the front four actually defending as opposed to attacking? Oh. They have to do a hell of a lot of defensive work before they get to have any shots or key passes or assists or anything.
I would say the great majority. I mean, Friday we could potentially put out a front four. That's a bit. I mean, of Hutchison and Ciso, Philogene and Delap. I mean, Will we perhaps see that? That would be something if they
You
don't.
look excited by that, Dave.
I absolutely agree. You would be, wouldn't you? My goodness me, there's some flair, certainly some flair there. Whether it's Saturday's the game for that or not, I'm not really sure. But no, I absolutely agree, Ben. Yeah, that generally the front four in teams in our position and below us in the relegation zone are going to have to defend deep from the front. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
a lot of the time.
Dave, we'll stick with you. Rob, do you think it's time to go back to 4-2-3-1 and try to create more chances against the so-called Leicester? I think we will against Southampton.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we will. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do we need to strengthen midfield in the middle? I think. Have you kind of answered that in the last answer, Craig?
Well, it'd be nice. I think we do. We need we do need to strengthen it. But as Dave said, how do you do it? How do you find it? You've got Kayuste, who we all hoped would be that guy, just adding a bit of impetus and running power through the centre of midfield, which he does look like he's got. But it just seems to be a fitness issue with him at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if he is fit that he comes back in next week, just to give us a little bit more oomph through the middle than Phillips or Morsy can currently give us.
I love this one, Dave. Good luck. Is it time to restore Muric in the starting lineup? Go on, Blanco lost you.
Well, I saw a couple of comments there saying that, I don't know, Craig perhaps hinted at the second goal, but again, that's a harsh one to put. I think it is a bit of a harsh one, given yes, it is an angle, and yeah, if you stand up, yeah, you're brave and you get the ball in the chops, perhaps you could go down. But I saw someone actually digging Moulton out for the first goal. I'm not sure. I'm not. I thought he was okay. Yes, you cannot keep chopping and changing. So no, Walton will. I look, unless he's injured or there's sickness like Davis in the camp, as sometimes you get. I fully expect Walton to be in Saturday. You can't keep chopping and changing.
Right. Michael, I'll answer this one, has asked, how many wins do we need to stay up? I've just got my iPhone out and calculated that Leicester, this is pathetic, by the way, are projecting 28.08 points. So I hate to say it, but I'd almost accept a scenario now where the bottom four are completely marooned and kind of whipping boys, because it might mean that you could stay up with an incredibly low points total. That does require a lot of defeats for everybody, probably including us, which nobody really wants. But I mean, if Leicester are projecting sort of what are they on 0.73 points per game, so at the moment 29 points keeps you up, which is insane, and we've got 16, which would literally be another 4 wins and a draw, or kind of.
Ben, for those last 2 seasons when me and you were sitting there on a Sunday night going, David, looking seriously like me might drop below those 2 points a game, Dave. I mean, this is bloody terrible. That's awful. Oh, for those days. No, it's. I mean, what do we seriously think? Could it go? It can't go below 30, surely. So 30.
That's what it's projected. But someone, Dave, will win 2 games out of 3 over
surely
Easter.
It's still going to take what, low 30s, isn't it? 33, 34, isn't it?
We're coming down, aren't we? We're coming down.
We are.
35, Craig.
No, I mean, true. Yeah.
And if the bottom 4 do get marooned, then are we allowed to call games against Southampton, Wolves, and Leicester 6-pointers?
Yes, and must-win games. Yeah, definitely, you can do that.
6-pointers, but must-wins far too much used. Yeah, 6-pointers always a good one.
What about a must-win 6-pointer, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
Which could take us to our conversation about Southampton. Sorry, I've got a few more questions. Sorry, Michael, Gary, FXT Blues, John, and Colin, but I'm going to move on. I've got questions from you guys, but the clock is ticking, and Richard and Seb will talk properly about Southampton. But Craig, you could almost call this a must-win. Well, it's not really a 6-pointer against Southampton, because the chances of both teams surviving are infinitesimally low. But God, we're 10 points clear of Southampton. They are terrible, aren't they? Bless them. Craig, we got to beat Southampton. I mean, people tell me off for saying must-win. Well, what is it then if it's not a bloody must-win this time?
Yeah. One of either Dave or I did use the term "must-win" this morning on the emotional, humorous, phlegmatic, and emotional rewind show that we put in the can. I think the issue may well be is how you flick that switch from being encamped and defending
Good
for
point.
180 of the last 180 minutes, flick that switch from being the sitting in ultra
But
defensive
wouldn't that be a relief,
team.
Craig?
Yeah, very possibly. Yeah, hopefully so. And as Dave said, if you can release the hounds of are they hounds or are they puppies? Release the puppies. If you could release
Free them. Yeah.
the
Cancel
puppies.
Craig, not anyone else.
Yeah. That would be nice. It's one of those. It's a bit like the England fan scenario, isn't it? Oh, play all these attacking players,
yeah.
and
mention
they'll all
the
come
handbrake,
good,
Craig.
score us loads and loads of goals. But to be fair to Broadhead, I wouldn't be surprised if Broadhead comes in. He's looked very lively in every performance and every appearance so far. So. Yeah, let's hope that they're working on clicking up front this week, and we see a performance from Philogene and then Ciso and Hutchison behind Delap, who doesn't get booked next weekend.
Dave, apart from 3 points, who and what would you like to see next weekend against Southampton?
I'd love
Bottom
to see
of the
that.
league, Southampton, with 1 win and 10 points adrift.
I'm not sure we will, but I'd love to see that front four, wouldn't you? Rampaging,
Well, Dave, why wouldn't you see them? Why wouldn't you see it? Because just too many new players.
Yeah, perhaps, but love to see it with rampaging Delap at the top of that three. My goodness me! But yeah, it's sort of getting them the ball and getting them on the ball, which certainly has been the issue. Obviously, we'll see more of the ball. Philogene, I think, was a case in point yesterday. People say, "Oh, I didn't think it was all that," but you can't judge him on his first game. You can't judge him on that game at all. So I'd love to see that, but again, we just need to, that back of hopefully we'll see a settled back four next Saturday. I think if Twanzebe, didn't have any reaction to yesterday and Davis is fit again, you can't keep chopping and changing the central two.
Well, he's got a full week, Dave, this week.
No, he has. No, to be fair, he has. And do you know what? Morsey he's so important to us. But again, if Kayuste's fit, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kayuste and Phillips start next week. Wouldn't surprise me.
Craig, doomsday scenario.
Craig.
Can I refuse to come on the podcast? Should we just cancel the podcast if we lose to Southampton next week? Because if we lose to I know realistically, if you lose to Southampton and Wolves, who they got, Villa and Leicester lose as well, then everyone will say, okay, what's really changed apart from your quote easiest game of the season has gone? But a lot of people will say, and I get it, they'll say, oh, we're down if we lose to Southampton next week. They'll say that, won't they?
They will. And it's funny enough, when we were chatting about seasons gone past on a pre-recorded pod earlier, we were talking about one of the games that happened in March, but the actual narrative at that time, even though we were out of the relegation spots, there was just a narrative around the club that this isn't going to end well, and it was transpired that it was right. And if we do happen to come out on the the poor side of the bad result next week, it's one of those must-wins has disappeared, hasn't it? And you've only got 2 must-wins remaining.
Yeah, Wolves and Leicester. I wouldn't want to set foot if the worst does happen. I wouldn't want to set foot on the ITFC Twitter feed. That's for sure. But anyway.
Oh dear. Aston Villa, Spurs, Man United, Palace, Forest takes you up to the middle of March with I suppose a nice distraction in the FA Cup.
Given those fixtures, what we've just said, you need that. Not to say a buffer, is it? But you need those 3 points next Saturday. Then
you do. And Dave, let's be positive. That win against Chelsea came out of nowhere. People didn't expect it, but as we've discussed before, you can't be losing at home to Everton and then not beating Southampton away and not beating. We're unlucky against Leicester. I know we've been poor in a lot of games, but we're unlucky against Leicester at home. But they need to be 3 points.
The points you need to pick these points up at home. You really do. And
then with a couple of that win came out of nowhere kind of results as well.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know it's tough, but we all understand the assignment and 6-0 and 4-1 in consecutive weeks. But thank you for being balanced and sticking with us through the show. Craig, your last word going into a really significant game that it would be very helpful to win next week against Southampton.
Yeah, as the fans did yesterday, and as the fans did at Manchester City, I think we all understand the task at hand for the last two matches. Let's just chalk them off, forget about them, and bundle up the next few and look forward to it. If you need a bit of light relief, Rewind's out on Tuesday.
When the crowd say Bo Selector. Dave, last word from you, fella?
Yeah, as Craig quite rightly said, the Rewind show is out next
Tuesday?
out on Tuesday. Yeah, so looking forward to that. And yeah, look, let's just try and keep it together. Big game next Saturday. I won't give it the must-win. Big, massive game next Saturday. Let's get those 3 points and yeah, just edge closer to whatever the magic will be. I saw someone said that apparently here's some hearts. I think Chris Rand posted that last season, the 27 kept you up last season, and the bottom three at this
I don't
point
buy
last
that.
season had
Is
more
that
points
just
than we
one?
have.
Is that just 1 point more than you have to go halfway between there? But I know what Chris is saying, but
Keep
yeah.
the faith.
Because my argument always is, who was third bottom was a Luton. If they'd scored 27 points, they would have still been relegated by 9 points or whatever. So
Actually, Ben, hang on. I've just had Ken Bruce is waiting in the green room. Can we crack on?
oh, hello. I know what that means. Maybe we'll film that for him. But come on, guys. Bottom of the league at home next week. FA Cup, family fun day at Commentary. It's going to be a great couple of weeks. Join us for the Monday podcast next week. Keep the bloody faith.